Welcome back. So, U.S. President Donald Trump has given China until Tuesday, which is today, to scrap its 34% counter-tariff or face a 50% tax hike. Beijing retaliated on Sunday after Washington announced a 34% tax on Chinese imports. International relations expert Professor Oscar van Heerden joins us for some analysis. So, Prof, good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. I mean, I don't know if you could say that you'd be surprised that China acted so swiftly by retaliating to the 34% tariff as announced by Donald Trump last week. But swift, and I don't know if you'd call it decisive.
Well, Naledi, you know, the truth of the matter is somehow Donald Trump is giving the impression that he thought that there would be no repercussions for his tariff hikes. We've seen how Mexico and Canada responded earlier on. Now with the global tariff setting for all or most countries, countries are having to ask the question, do we do nothing? Do we respond in kind? And in the case of China, because it's the second largest economy in the world, I'm sure Trump and his associates around him should have known that China would respond in kind. And so it's not a question of whether we are going to be seeing a trade war. We are already in a trade war.
So so I'm looking at now what I suppose the trickle-down effect of these tariffs mean for both sides. So what a 34% in your view does to China's economy, and then the retaliation, certainly what that does in the US. I mean, it's also quite the testing time for President Donald Trump, where you've seen the protest taking place on the 5th of April. He's got quite a few challenges. I don't even know what the right response from him should be.
Well, he is of the opinion that what he's doing, and he's been advised, I'm sure, that this is the way forward in terms of slapping countries with tariffs. It's a short-term measure. It is cutting your nose to spite your face. In the medium to long term, it is not going to be beneficial because the world has changed. It is much more integrated. The global economy is much more integrated. And what countries are going to do, including China, is beginning to move away from the punitive measures that the US is enforcing with these tariffs. They are going to respond in kind. As for the deadline that Trump has given China, China is not going to adhere to it at all. In fact, if anything, China, it's clear that they have applied themselves to this matter, and they are hitting tariffs in sectors that is going to hurt Middle America, that is going to hurt the support base of Donald Trump. And I think what's going to happen is it's not going to be about let's enforce tariffs and let's have a tariff war and a trade war. What it is going to result in is Xi Jinping and Trump sitting down around the table and beginning to act like mature individuals and saying, what is it that we need to do to make this all go away?
Yeah. You know, when you talk about the maturity, apologies, I think about the words that are being used. You've got the Commerce Ministry in China having, called Trump's a threat of an additional levy as a mistake on top of a mistake, saying it will never accept the blackmail nature of the United States. Just such colourful words that are coming from, some of the two biggest economies in the world. And then, of course, there's the issue around if we're going to see any more of these responses from other countries. So is China here setting an example?
No, absolutely. And already we've seen, as I said earlier, Naledi, we've seen countries already taking the lead. The European Union is not going to take this lying down. And many other countries, India, etc., is not going to take this lying down. They have some muscle. In the case of South Africa, of course, we are a mere speck on the screen. We're a very small economy in comparison to the very largest economy in the world. But that simply does not mean that you weaponize trade and that you begin to take a bat and swing wildly and everyone must duck and accept that there's chaos. I think that the position of the Ramaphosa administration and I'm sure this is also with the Chinese administration, is that we need to be respected, we need to be treated as equals, and we need a fair trade agreement, not something that is skewed in favor of the United States only.
Yeah, yesterday a statement coming out of the Chinese government as well, speaking about, I suppose, their broader approach to trade with other countries across the globe, saying that they still very much believe in opening up, barriers for trade, helping each other develop our various economies. And I wonder if at a time like this is a big opportunity for China to increase its influence across the globe, particularly on the African continent.
Absolutely, absolutely. And they are going to do that, of course. We shouldn't necessarily see China as the panacea of all our woes. What we do need to do is to engage with the Americans, to challenge the Trump administration. We need not look at the Trump administration as if it is in perpetuity. It's a 4-year term. In 2 years' time, there's the primaries and the midterms. Things can change in Congress. And I think that's why Trump is pushing so hard already within the first few months of his administration, because he knows that they did not win Congress with such a huge majority. Things can still change. And with that, the tune will change. So we need to hang in there. We need to be resilient. But at the same time, you're right, Naledi, countries are going to look at alternative markets. They are going to look further afield. And they're not going to take this sitting down.
Yeah. Final question, Prof, and that is what we take from this moment. We've heard it many times, of course, that look for other opportunities to form other trade relationships. That we've heard, of course, and I think that's incredibly important. But as we see what is starting to look more and more like a trade war globally at this stage, it certainly speaks to really our approach. Do we continue engaging, or do we also start to look inward? And, if you were sitting in the office with Durko and certainly the presidency, what is the approach moving forward?
I think it needs a multifaceted approach. There's no one answer. Yes, we need to have good, solid trade relations and bilateral relations with many countries, including the United States. But this episode has also shown us that when you have a right-wing, conservative, racist president in the White House, then you need to reprioritize. And so it's going to be important for South Africa to also look at how is it that we're going to be less dependent, not only on the US, but other countries, in terms of aid, in terms of assistance, and also in terms of trade. It's a good thing that we've had a good trade agreement with the European Union to the tune of 90 billion rand that's coming into the economy over the next few years. We need to look at China and other further afield to try and solidify and look for alternative markets, particularly for the automotive sector, for the agriculture sector. These are the sectors that are going to be badly affected once we are withdrawn by the United States from AGOA, which is going to happen in September.
Yeah, certainly an interesting time to be watching global politics. Prof, thank you so much for your time. We really do appreciate it. Professor Oscar van Heerden there, international relations expert, and of course he's with the University of Johannesburg.